Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to our special series on Divorce Insights, conversations with America's leading divorce attorneys and professionals, based on the forthcoming Amazon book of the same title, benefiting charity. I'm Mark Imperial. For many couples, divorce can be the biggest decision of their lives. And as you may imagine, for those who may be facing divorce for the first time, this can also be an incredibly stressful time as well. The mission in this series is to shed light on the divorce process, from your rights and obligations to your options and opportunities. So that's what we're going to discuss today with my guest, Nicholas Boca. He's the managing attorney at the Cantor Law Group based in Phoenix, Arizona. Nicholas, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nicholas, tell us about the Cantor Law Group and the type of clients that you help.
Sure. So the Cantor Law Group has been around since 2001. We handle all sorts of divorce cases. So anywhere from high net worth, high profile cases involving athletes and celebrities, all the way down to, just normal people that really just need kind of their hand held through a divorce process, because it's one of the worst times in people's lives. In addition to doing those types of cases, we also do a lot of juvenile law work. So anything dealing with the Department of Child Safety when the state of Arizona ends up removing children for abuse or neglect. We have the largest juvenile law team in Arizona to handle those cases as well.
So Nicholas, tell us, when folks reach out to you, what is like the most common or biggest concern that you hear from them?
The most common concern is they're really just kind of unsure about the process, and it's a tough process. It's a long process, unfortunately. It's just how our court system works here in Arizona. So they have a lot of questions and anxieties around that process, and we work really hard to take the time to really break it down for them so they can understand how we can help them, how we can move them through that divorce process as fast as possible. We deal with a lot of high conflict divorces involving children. And again, we have a tremendous amount of experience representing parents when we're dealing with those kind of allegations of child abuse or domestic violence or substance abuse, and we help them understand how we're able to protect their children, what steps we can take to make sure that, again, those children are protected and we're getting them divorced in the process.
When you hear from these folks, I'd imagine there's a lot of information out there on the web and people probably do a bunch of research. What do you feel are the biggest myths out there that you hear people talking about when it comes to the divorce process?
One of the biggest myths is we have people come to us and say, this seems easy, I can do it myself. There are self-service forms online. I think we're in agreement. My spouse and I get along. I think we can just do this ourselves. No matter what, you need to have an attorney involved. Even if you and your spouse are getting along and you do think that you're going to be able to reach agreements, those agreements need to be very carefully drafted into what's called a consent decree, which is the agreement to get divorced at the end, to make sure that you are completely financially severed and that you don't have to come back or there aren't legal issues in the future. We have a tremendous amount of business that comes into us for what are called post-decree issues. So someone enters in one of these self-service forms or they weren't properly represented beforehand, and they're dealing with the aftermath of a poorly written consent decree, especially when children are involved. Even if you're reaching agreements with your spouse, there needs to be a really, really specific and comprehensive parenting plan that's drafted that accounts for every minute of every day of the year. And the reason why we do that is because it cuts down and, the goal being it eliminates potential conflict because it's really black and white. You know where your kid is going to be and when the exchange occurs and how holidays are divided and so on. And so our hope is when we do that great work for clients, they don't have to come back and see us. They can live happily ever after divorced and co-parent effectively together.
Nicholas, you mentioned that people are most mystified about the process. They're in the dark about it for the most case. What about fear? Do you hear about a common fear that everybody has when they first come to see you? What are they most afraid of?
Absolutely. So oftentimes, if we're representing the spouse that is not the income earner, there's a lot of fear centered around, how am I going to do this? How am I going to afford this? Where am I going to go? How can I live every day? How can I provide for my children during this process? And those are, tremendous and legitimate fears. We help them get the resources from the other spouse, and we can work really quickly to make that happen, to make sure that, again, they're supported independently throughout the divorce process, because that is an issue.
If there was a such thing as a stress-free divorce, like if you were to give a pearl of wisdom out there to divorcing couples, what could they do to minimize the stress, to make it as smooth as possible, and to assure their success when working with you?
We work and we push really hard with clients to reach agreements with the spouse. And that's how the Arizona divorce system is set up. You really want to negotiate a settlement, and we push our clients to do that because ultimately, and I'll give the example with the children, ultimately they're your children, and you want to make decisions about what happens in their lives and where they are and when, as opposed to going in front of a judge for 3 hours and having to kind of unpack your lives together and explain to them who you are and who your children are, and having that judge make a decision about your kids. So to make that as stress-free as possible, we, again, meticulously explain the entire process. We make sure that we gather all the information from the other spouse, all of their financial information, all of their account information, and then we lay out, based on our trial experience, what we believe a judge would order or would award should we litigate certain issues. And based on that experience, we're able to really push our clients to understand that, listen, this agreement in this area on this issue is in your best interest because what you're asking for most likely won't happen, but this is a fair result for what you're getting. And that, we tell our clients if they can reach those agreements that they are ultimately comfortable with, it's less stressful, it's more cost-effective, it ultimately can be a better result. However, in the event that you have a person on the other side that just is unreasonable on all levels, won't negotiate, won't agree to anything, we're the best law firm for that. We have a tremendous amount of trial experience, and when negotiations break down and we can't reach agreements, that's where we really do our best work for our clients.
That's sage advice. Nicholas, what inspired you to get into family law?
So I used to be an assistant attorney general for the Department of Child Safety, and actually 5 other attorneys at our law firm are former assistant attorney generals. As an assistant attorney general, again, a tremendous amount of trial experience dealing with child safety issues. So working to identify child safety issues, like we mentioned before, substance abuse, domestic violence, child abuse, sometimes sexual abuse, really, really heavy content. And we take those skills, and I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity at the Cantor Law Group to bring those skills to this law firm. It's kind of an easy transition from litigating in juvenile court those issues and issue spotting the same things in family court. So we've learned that trial experience really transfers over really well into private practice. I've always had a connection to my cases involving children, and I can tell you that is the worst time in people's lives when they're getting a divorce or they're dealing with a high conflict custody situation where their children are in danger. And that's my connection to these cases. And we're able to effectively present these issues to the judge and protect children when it's necessary. And as part of my job here, I get to do that day in and day out, and it's really rewarding. It's a difficult area of law because it's highly emotional, understandably, but it's really rewarding when you get to sit next to your client, that parent, and ultimately affect their daily lives with their children in a positive way.
Nicholas, what's the most important thing divorcing couples should consider when they're seeking out and evaluating an attorney that they might want to work with?
You want someone that has trial experience, and that on all levels, is, I believe, the most valuable experience you can have, because if you end up having to step into court and litigate these issues in a divorce context, you need someone that has experience in front of all the different judges in Maricopa County. And actually, we have experience all over the state of Arizona, but also regarding all the different issues that arise in a divorce context. It also lends itself to really good advice regarding coming to agreements with the other party, because you can tell your client with confidence, on this issue, this is how it's going to play out in court. And that experience is the most valuable.
Nicholas, before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask that you feel is important to share with our listeners?
It's important, absolutely, to be with a law firm that really cares about the clients. And we are, beyond just being good attorneys and having that trial experience I've talked about, we are really client service focused. I think that's so important, especially in this area of law. We take the time and really break it down for clients. We're really communicative. So if you call us in the morning, we'll get back to you before lunch. If you call us in the afternoon, we'll get back to you before we leave for the end of the day. It's a terrible time in someone's life, and we don't want them to spend any minute or any overnight feeling anxiety. If we can pick up the phone and answer their questions and kind of mitigate those fears and that anxiety immediately, we will. We take the time to do that. And that's one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other law firms.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly comforting. So, Nicholas, how can one of our listeners, find out more about Cantor Law Group and get a hold of you if they could use your help?
Absolutely. So you can contact us locally on our phone. It's 602-254-8880. We also have a website that outlines all of our successes and about our law firm and our history. That is cantorlawgroup.com, cantorlawgroup.com. We also have a sister law firm, DM Cantor. That is a criminal law firm. That law firm has more complete jury acquittals than any law firm in Arizona, more certified criminal law specialists than any law firm in Arizona. Those are the cases that both of our law firms handle together when there are criminal allegations. We do both the family or juvenile law case and the criminal case at the same time. So when you are dealing with all of those issues, we can handle them all in-house.
That's terrific. Nicholas, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with our listeners today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
I'm Mark Imperial, and this is the program spotlighting noteworthy professionals, experts, and business owners from around the world and in your town. If you know a great business or professional that we should feature on the program, I'd like to hear from you. You could nominate them by emailing me at radio@markimperial.com. Once again, that's radio@markimperial.com. In this next segment, our home stretch, I've got a special treat for you. If you're a business owner or professional, or if you aspire to be one, for over 7 years, I've been interviewing leading experts and business celebrities and sharing their secrets to success with you. From my first show, Entrepreneur's Edge, to Game Changers Radio, to Mad Rocket Business, all the way to Remarkable Radio and this program today, in this home stretch, I'm bringing you a flashback to one of my most popular episodes, covering how to attract clients magnetically using only the power of words and without costly branding. So enjoy this very special edition home stretch, and here we go.
Now, get the edge. Here are Mark and Tom.
Hey, welcome to the show. It's Mark Imperial, another power thinking hour here at Entrepreneur's Edge.
Mark, this is Tom Rebar, and it is time for all the capitalists and all of the entrepreneurs and the self-employed people and the professionals in private practice and all the sales and marketing pros to come out of the woodwork and put their feet up and join together and learn for an hour.
That's right. So welcome back, everybody. And we've got a terrific show. We're recapping a fantastic week that we had here at Entrepreneur's Edge. We just had our Entrepreneur's Edge live event last Wednesday, and boy, it was a hoot. The party was jumping. I'm telling you, they almost had to kick us out of that hotel.
They did, and there's nothing like talking about advertising and copywriting that gets people out of their chairs, because once you start talking about that, people realize that even if you thought you knew everything there was to know about it, you realize there's more to learn and more to still learn.
Yeah, the place was absolutely on fire. We had Conrad Hall and Ken Schreiber join us in speaking on copywriting and writing the words that sell your business. What better way to get to the bullet points of that than to recap what we talked about at Wednesday's event?
Go for it.
And you know what? In fact, if you missed it, you really missed a hugely valuable opportunity to boost your response. Because I'm talking about, we talked about headlines and postcard and copy that got 4 to 5 times the response of another control. So that's a 400 to 500% increase by just changing the words on the paper. How many folks don't think about that?
A whole bunch.
So we started out, one of our guest speakers, Ken Schreiber, he was talking about lead generation and the minute differences about generating leads with your copy as opposed to like using sales conversion. Now, one of the key points and takeaways he talked about, he started out, check this out. The first thing he said when he got up on the stage is he said, "Who here wants a surefire way to get new customers or prospects without any marketing cost?" And all the hands went up, right?
Mine went up.
Yeah.
I was the first one.
Now, guess what? He says that was the first lesson in lead generation. You are trying to identify exactly with the person what is it that they want. So if you have the right market, the right list, and then you give them that question, who wants this solution? And you're talking directly at a person, and they raise their hand and identify. That is it. That's as simple as that. And then you make them an offer that they just can't refuse.
Because all you want is to find out who those people are who are willing to raise their hand.
Yeah, and you could adapt that into any business type that you can. Now look at this. Another key is speaking directly at that target person. If you get a list, if you're doing a mailing, a postcard mailing, and you know who that customer is you're looking for, you identify it and you speak directly at their problems. You have to identify, and we talked about this. I call it the hidden benefit, because you have to think about your customer and think of all the problems that they have in their lives, because what you are is you're a problem solver. That brings up another point. A lot of business owners, a lot of businesses out there, they make the mistake, and we had some folks talk about this in the room as well. I say, what is your ad about? What was the message you put in your marketing? And they said, well, a discount, a discount or percentage off. And the reality is that they're trying to sell their product directly. And we say that kind of hurts your response, because when you try to sell your product directly, the only people that are responding are those that are ready to buy like your widget or your thing right now.
At that immediate point in time.
So it's about transcending timing. So we're going to be back after this break and continue, because we've got a lot of nuggets that came out of that event on writing words that sell. BusinessEdgeRadio.com. Go to the website, get our free gift, and we'll be right back after this.
Stay with us.
Business owners and entrepreneurs. Once again, here's Mark and Tom.
Hey, welcome back to your Power Thinking Hour for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's Mark Imperial.
This is Tom Rebar. Hey, Mark, let's go back to that the story you were telling right before the break about the person who was going for the jugular and trying to make the big sale right out of the gate. Let's try to make sure we bring the loop fully closed there. What do you do to get around that?
Well, let's see. As I mentioned, a lot of business owners, they think, they're not, they're in the mindset of, I got to sell my thing. So they're focused on, how can I sell my thing? Let me present my product or my service, and let me give a discount or a coupon. That's like the knee-jerk reaction to what they're offering.
And then when people don't buy, right away they think, my price is still too high, so they get into this headset of, now I got a further discount.
Yeah, they're focusing on the wrong thing, and it's because they get a low response rate. But our answer to that, what we know from testing, is that the low response rate is because you're not transcending timing. You're making an offer for people that are ready to buy right that minute. But then when somebody is in the buying cycle, but they're not just quite ready to buy yet, and maybe a month down the road, they forgot all about you. You're only picking up the immediate buyers. You have to find a way to transcend the timing, and we do that with lead generation.
And it has nothing to do with price. So
that's right.
Get price out of your head, that it's not that your price is too high.
That's often the last thing to even consider is the price. I mean, the example that I'm going to give you and for the listeners is we had a terrific home remodeling company in the audience and asked us how do we directly link what we're talking about here at the event to his type of business. I said, is there a business that feels like they don't know how to link this lead generation strategy to theirs? And then he raised his hand and he said, home remodeling. What do I do? And I said, what are you doing currently to get your business? He said, I did a mailing. What was the offer on the mailing? It was a discount of some sort. And we told him the same thing. You're selling a discount. You're only going to pick up the buyers ready to buy now. And then he said, well, what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is you want to find people that may not just be thinking about buying right now, but maybe they're already in their head. You know what? 6 months from now, a year from now, I know I'm going to have a move. How are you going to get those people to identify themselves so you can continue to stay in front of them? Well, we said, why don't you offer a report called, the 7 deadly traps and how to avoid them, how to save blah, blah, blah on your remodeling costs, how to get how to remodel your kitchen, your home or whatever, and save the maximum. 7 deadly traps, a report that is going to be useful to that prospect. That way, even if it's 6 months or a year from now that they're thinking about the move, they still want that free report. That little trick alone increases the response 4 or 5 times. Easily.
And you could tell that this fella, because I was sitting across the room from him, he had a big smile on his face as soon as you started to unveil that story, because you could tell right away he got it. Mm-hmm. And head kind of went back into oh, that makes sense right away to him. So
that's right.
He was a very smart person.
Yeah. So, back to the list of what Ken Schreiber was speaking about. He's, another nugget was speak directly at him. Who is it that you're mailing to and what is their direct problem? The next point is the everyone's favorite radio station besides WIND is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Exactly.
So that, literally the headline or the message that you put on your mailing pieces has to address directly at them because it has to pass that test. Conrad Hall mentioned this, the so what test. You read your headline, whatever you consider your headline, and run it through your own head and say, okay, I read something and so what? Is it going to make you say so what, or is it going to intrigue you to read further?
Well, in fact, he even suggests to do that for every one of your bullets. When you put the bullet there, just read it out loud and say, now, so what? What is that person going to answer if they read it and you say, so what, to give yourself a chance to substantiate that bullet in your head?
Yes, that's right.
Is it a worthy bullet?
Yep. And I have a litmus test actually for you. Let's first of all, let's wrap up with what Conrad was talking about before we even go into the litmus test on headlines. But, Conrad has a great description for copywriting. He said it's the art of using words to create action. Now think about that. The art of using words to create action. How many folks really think of their advertising in that way? The most of the time I see people doing an advertisement, it's like the name of their company or their logo. How does that create any action?
One of the best testimonials for last night was I brought my assistant along to your summit. He is just beginning to think about the art of copywriting. And when we left, he said that was one of the best meetings he's ever been to. And he got more notes in a short period of time about how to write copy than he ever thought he would by coming along last night.
It's incredible. And, a lot of the stuff that, many of our pros in Mastermind, for example, we take it for granted because we've been so immersed in this kind of marketing, but it's eye-opening for many. For example, one of the big keys that was huge for everyone in the room was when Ken Schreiber described, and remember the headline, who else here wants to know how to acquire new customers and prospects without any acquisition cost? Right. Now, how do you do it without acquisition cost? Well, if you were at the summit, I don't have enough time in the next 4 minutes to tell you, but you can do, it was a brilliant strategy he had about liquidating your marketing costs. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be at Entrepreneur's Edge live events. And these are the kind of things that we talk about. So, this is probably the best time ever to give a plug for the next live event. Make sure you go to Business Edge Live or businessedgeradio.com, click on the live events tab, and you're going to find the next meeting in Madison, the next meeting in Green Bay, and the next meeting in Oak Brook. Hey, we've only got about a minute here, and I want to talk about one bullet. I have about 12 here.
Go ahead.
But let's talk about the headline, because what is the headline? The headline of your ad is the ad for your ad. Does that make sense? And what is the only job of the headline?
The only job of the headline is to shout it out and get somebody to be interested in taking the next step, which is to read what else is there.
Read the next line, absolutely. And it's the most valuable real estate on your ad or your postcard or your mailing. And what do most companies inadvertently waste in that space? What do they do in that space instead?
How many people put the name of their company or their logo up at the top of the ad or the top of their website, and then they wonder why nobody's reading it? It's because they never had a headline there.
Hey, in the wrap-up, I'm going to give my litmus test for great headlines for all the listeners. After the break, Tom Apicella from Think Spaces in Naperville, Illinois, will be joining us to give us his tips, tricks, and secrets for furnishing your office. We'll be right back. BusinessEdgeRadio.com.
We'll be here. Stay with us. BusinessEdgeRadio.com for all the events.
Hey, we're back. It's Mark Imperial.
And this is Tom Rebar. We are in the home stretch again, Mark. I can't believe another week has gone by so fast.
That's right. Hey, we're back here with Tom Apicella from Think Spaces in Naperville, Illinois. Hey, Tom, I wanted to ask you just recently joined our mastermind group here at Entrepreneur's Edge. Can you tell me what drew you to the group and what you're getting out of it so far?
Well, what drew me to the mastermind group is, I want to have other like-minded entrepreneurs and people that I can basically bounce ideas off of, talk about my business to help expand it. Because as a lot of people know, there's a lot of businesses in one business that you can extrapolate from. So just having that, and then it's also, for accountability when you come up with new strategies and ideas, there's some accountability because they're going to ask you, well, what did you do with what you said you were going to do with last month?
Yeah.
And, action is the way to make things happen in business.
Now, that's terrific. And now for the folks listening, whether they're a property manager or a business owner looking to move or improve their spaces, how can they get a hold of you for your information?
You can go to thinkspaces.net and you can fill out one of our interior design contact forms, or there's a phone number on there that you can call, 630-324-4598.
Tom, it was terrific having you on the show. Thank you for coming out today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the show.
Terrific. Thank you. Tom, we're on the home stretch now.
We are. I can't believe it.
Now, I promised a litmus test for people to test whether their headlines are any good.
So give them.
All right, here it is. Now, this is sort of like the classified test, if you think of like a classified ad. And what are the classified ads all about? It's usually a small, tiny little ad, right?
Very small.
With just, you don't have enough room to put anything but a blurb and a call to action, a CTA, like a phone number, right?
That's exactly right.
So what you do is you take whatever you think is your headline and then you neuter out everything else and just put your phone number or whatever your response mechanism is under it. And if the two make sense and entice you to move forward, like let me give you an example. What do most people use as their headline that's wrong? And we talk about this a lot. The company name, right?
Name and maybe a logo.
So let's look at the litmus test. A to Z Painting, phone number. Now, is that entice you to take any action?
So who'd call with A to Z Painting and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9?
That's right. There's no words that cause action. Now, what if the headline, let me think just off of the top of my head here. Let's use an example for a bowling alley, okay? Something weird. Now, what if the headline said how to bowl a 300 every time and then a phone number? Now, that causes you a little bit more enticement to call that number.
Sure
So
would.
there's a difference between that's the litmus test. Take your headline and put just the headline and the phone number or response mechanism. And is that enough to make somebody take some action? That's the litmus test.
Great test.
So that makes every word count.
Hopefully nobody just puts that in an ad, a headline and a phone number. It'd be nice to have a little more copy than that. But I understand what the litmus test is.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what we talked about, and it's about all the time we had to talk about today was headlines, but It's the most important piece. What else do we know about headlines? Headlines are the most important part of the ad. You remember at the event, I gave you 3 headlines that were tested. And I'll tell you what, let's do the test right now. One of the headlines got 5 times the response of the other 2. Was it headline A, I've never been able to get a good portrait of my child until now? Or B, finally a children's portrait worth more than the paper it's printed on? Or C, the best children's portrait at the right price guaranteed? You know, we did this test. People raised their hand. The room was about split. But the answer is B. And again, we said, what's the reason why? Everyone gave reasons that they thought why B won, but the truth is it doesn't matter. You just have to test.
And everybody's afraid to test.
And guess what? They didn't change any other part of the ad.
Customer.
Just the headline.
Hey, go out to businessedgeradio.com. We have Wayne Brightbath coming this next month in March up in Green Bay and Madison. He's going to talk about business use of LinkedIn. Unbelievable ideas, so come and see us.
See you later. Hey, it's Mark Imperial. I hope you enjoyed those highlights. Again, if you know a professional or business that we should feature on the show, you could nominate them by emailing me at radio@markimperial.com. One more time, that's radio@markimperial.com. Until next time, this is Mark Imperial. Make it a remarkable week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.